Hello and welcome to Letters Home, a story of a World War II B-17 pilot from Lowell, Michigan, in his own words. And he just so happens to be my grandpa. I'm your host, Annie Whitlock, and I'm joined by my co-host, my dad, Mitch McMahon, my aunt, Lori McMahon Summerfield, and Dale Croft from the Lowell Historical Museum.
In each episode of Letters Home, we're going to dive into letters written by my dad during his time in World War II that he sent to his parents, siblings, and friends back home in Lowell, Michigan. We'll be reading his own words and giving some context as to what was happening in the world and in Lowell at the time he wrote these.
In this episode, Dad rings in 1944 with a party. He also mentions several nieces and nephews in various letters, and we learn about another mission to Kiel.
All right, well, before we get into 1944, we have a correction or addition, I suppose. So last episode, Bruce flew a mission that was called Andy Gump, and we had no idea what that was because I can't imagine that's a city in France. So we got Dale on it, and what did you find out?
Well, after a treacherous search online, I found 6 different possibilities here we'll look at.
Ooh, okay.
One was called the B-50 was nicknamed Andy Gump because the redesigned engine nacelles reminded aircrew of the chinless newspaper comic character popular at the time. I'll tell you what a nacelles is. The airplane nacelles are streamlined enclosures or that primarily house and protect the engines while also improving aerodynamic efficiency by channeling airflow and reducing drag. Late production of the B-29 had revised engine nacelles with the oil cooler and intercoolers moved back, giving them a weak chin appearance.
So this is a cartoon
They
character?
were accordingly called Andy Gump nacelles after a comic strip character who lacked the chin.
Okay.
Another one. As a way to remember takeoff and landing checklists, crews would remember the comic strip Andy Gump. On the final approach to the landing strip, they would make the final check word Gump. The fuel was checked to set at G on reserve tank, U undercarriage down and locked, M mixture full rich and props full RPMs.
Oh.
So there's another reference.
Little acronym, okay.
This comic character was also useful in maintaining GI spirits in prison camps. They would make up many nicknames for the guards such as Squeaky, Andy Gump, the one with no chin, Village Idiot, Evil Eye, Mule Ears, and Sphinx.
Okay.
Then the one I think Bruce is referring to,
Yes.
I found on a combat diary mission from the 369th, dated December 24th, which is pretty much the time that they were all flying.
Yep.
So on December 24th, from the combat diary from the 369th, they talked about some type of rocket gun that the Germans are rumored to have. Quote, the potential destructive force of this weapon is not known. But it is worth the Germans' time and money to establish them. It is worth the 8th Air Force time to destroy them rather than wait in a guinea pig-like anticipation. The 306 was assigned to such emplacements, one in an Andy Gump-shaped forest and another in a Christmas tree-shaped forest. To me, that sounds like our answer for his Andy Gump.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the mission diary I wrote from his squadron said it made it seem like it was a field of some kind, or like, which would make sense. The forest is shaped like.
So you saw a forest with a great big nose, a forest with a great big nose with no chin. And
but like Dale,
and then a forest that looked like a Christmas
tree. You could see it from the plane.
Yeah, like we were saying, you probably looked down and saw lots of shapes that you would say, oh, hey, that looks like.
And they were looking for a rocket gun that it was thought the Germans may have. So
you know what? Some of these pictures I find of their plane art, there's a guy that looks like a little skinny guy with no chin.
Oh yeah.
That's him.
I have
that
the
must be what that is.
I have some great pictures of the Andy Gump stuff, the actual character. And then I got a couple of the planes that were actually named Andy Gump. So
all right.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Well, clearly we're missing a very important character from the 1940s.
Yeah.
Well, if any listeners have a correction or an addition for us, as always, comment, message us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, email, whatever it might be, and we'll rectify it in a future episode. Or we'll get Dale on the case and have him rectify it in a future episode. Depends. But yeah, it's 1944. We're now in a brand new year. It's a big year for Bruce, and we're going to start right in with the very first letter he wrote to his parents on January 1st, 1944. And it's a long one. And we're just going to kind of, well, actually, it's not even the whole thing. So he wrote quite a bit on this New Year's Day. So in his own words.
New Year's Day, 1944. Dear Mom and Dad, well, the first day of 1944 and a year has started in which we can look ahead to seeing better times for everyone. True, it may bring heartache to some, but no victory was worth winning that didn't call for a few sacrifices. God willing, it may be a year in which your youngest son returns from the war. A couple years older, a few experiences wiser, but at the heart the same son that left that Sunday morning to board a train to California. Since I've been here, there have been many times when I have prayed more fervently than I ever have before. Facing death, a death that isn't in the future and hard to see, but a death that is there, right now, staring you in the face. That kind of praying is really with all your heart and soul. Always when I have said these prayers, I have thought of you and knew that you were also saying them for me. For some reason, because I knew that you were, it's given me a great comfort. Almost made me know that mine would be answered. Gosh, this letter is getting away from me. But sometimes I just have to write these things to you. I can't just go around thinking them all the time and not saying them to anyone. Darn it. I was going to tell you about last night, so I better get busy. We had a party last night and a sweep before it. If you're in doubt as to the meaning of sweep, I'll explain. Before a party, we must drive into the various surrounding towns and get girls. Most of the time, we go to some WAF station and get a whole truck full of them, or to a hospital for some American nurses.
My God.
For this reason, we call it a sweep. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we have the girls. Let's go to the party. In the large room, they have a fire roaring in the huge fireplace. In the game room, they have a bar and is well prepared for a heavy drain on it. In the back room, they have a London orchestra, and the Lowell scene gives their music a pleasant resonance. A bunch of officers are standing around with scotch and tall glasses, waiting for the girls to arrive. When they do, bedlam breaks loose as they try to get their dates for the evening. Soon the place is filled with couples trying to dance. In the front room, there is always a bunch of fellows who, for various reasons, married or a gal back home, don't want a date for the evening. They all sit around and chew the fat with each other and the wrens or the wafts who are sitting there. It's really a gala affair, and no one can say that the party is dull or quiet. It's quite the contrary, as each in his own way drops the tensions that is his everyday job to conceal. About 12, the bar runs out of booze, and the guests start a mad rush to get their coats for the trip back to the post. Walking back to the site in my room, I can hear snatches of song as the men go to their different sites. Of course, last night the song was Auld Lang Syne, with plenty of gusto. This noon we had another swell turkey dinner, which I'm afraid wasn't appreciated by plenty of the fellows who had invited a bit too freely last night. Incidentally, the liquor they drink over here is scotch, and it is terrible. The English say that it is because of the war, but I'm inclined to believe that even a war couldn't make it that bad. Last night in the front room, a fellow was playing the piano, and we had a darn good song fest. We sang practically all the time during the party and sang all the old songs we could get good harmony on. Just in passing, it'll be sure swell to have an old quartet again when I get home. John Gallagher wrote to me and said he sure wished his tenor would hurry up and get back for a few songs before long. So you see, my New Year's Eve wasn't half bad. Yes, I might have had a few moments of nostalgia, just as the old year was being wrung out. But it was only momentary, and tonight I'm all set to get back to the harness again. These pleasant interludes are better for being forgotten the next day. When you're enjoying yourself with these affairs, you don't even speak of your work, and it's an all-out pursuit of a few carefree moments. Then when the next day rolls around, you go back to your job with all the same all-out tactics. Speaking of tactics, they have all their invasion generals picked, and just the other day we acquired a new 8th Air Force commander, no less than Jimmy Doolittle. It won't be long now. Sometime I'm going to write a real long letter, but for now it's good night. May God keep you safe for me. I'll be seeing you before long. Your loving and grateful son, Bruce.
That was a long letter. I don't know what he's talking about. Sometime I'm going to write a long letter. Listeners remember us talking about Jimmy Doolittle way back at the beginning of this podcast in 1942 and his raid on Tokyo that went awry. And Bruce was very kind of proud of that. So he's back. Jimmy Doolittle is back and commanding the Air Force for this final push of the war. Bruce seems really reflective and kind of optimistic in this letter a little bit at the end. And I don't know. He's like ready for a new year, I guess.
Yeah. The letter took quite a turn.
It did. It did. He wanted to talk about the truck full of girls that they have to go pick up and
sweep.
bring them to the party. The sweep. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Yeah, and then he's gonna. Do we know who? I didn't put like. Do you guys know who this person is? This John Gallagher, and how about he wants to sing with him
No.
again?
No.
Getting the band back together when he gets back.
Was it a barbershop quartet? Or?
I don't know. It's kind of cool. Maybe. I did notice that the front room was for men that had a girl back home, and he spent the night in the front room singing songs. So,
There we go.
we'll get to that later. Okay. So, about a week or so later, after this letter, Bruce wrote another letter to Raj and Beta. So, if you remember, those are his siblings. Roger's his brother, and Beta's Roger's wife. The letter starts out with a typed paragraph that's dated January 8th. However, underneath the typed paragraph, he writes 1 day and 8 hours later in his handwriting, and then finishes the letter, and he dates that January 9th. So clearly he started it typing and then had to finish handwriting. So we're going to just read the handwritten part. So in his own words.
Sunday night, January 9th, 1944. Say, Raj, I've been hunting since I last wrote you, actually out stalking them with a 12-gauge automatic Remington. There aren't any seasons around here, and a farmer can kill all he wants on his property. Patterson, a mess sergeant, and I went out this week, and I bagged a ragged and a pat. There are quite a few pheasants around here, but without Colonel, it's pretty hard to put them up. I'm shooting skeet at least once a week or so, and so you and Barney had better be sharp when I get home. Took a trip down to Farnborough a few days ago and had a swell time visiting an RAF station. At dinner, we had about 16 pieces of silverware around our places, but nothing to use them on. Menu consist of a piece of liver about this size, and the rest of the plate was covered with carrots, rutabagas, and turnips. I would have liked to have stayed longer, but my business was over, and the metro said a storm was coming up, so we took off and returned here. Damn, it was an interesting trip, but after pre-censoring it, it seems extremely uninteresting. That extremely uninteresting paragraph is the result. Oh well, someday I'll talk an arm off of you. I'm sending you a poem I clipped out of Stars and Stripes, and though it was written about Italy, it goes double over here. In case you didn't know already, this is the toughest air theater of them all, but the AC commander's admission. P-30s are right there, but don't forget the P-47s and the British Spits. So long for now, your loving brother, J. Bruce. P.S. Say hello to Raj, Gail, and F.J. for me. Tell them their Uncle Bruce misses them very much.
Aw, Gail, friend of the podcast, gets a shout out in this letter. It's so sweet. His nieces and nephews.
Yep.
And we hear about Bruce's love of pheasant hunting again. We debated about this word ragged. It is written like that, R-A-G-G-I-T, with quotes around it, but it probably means rabbit. But
Rabbit.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
what Sergeant Patterson calls them.
Oh, could be. That could be. And he did write the word damn this time in the letter because I'm guessing he writes, when you write to your siblings,
Whole different thing.
whole different thing than writing to your mom and dad. So he did. I wanted to make that clear. That wasn't Annie filling in the swear words. This time it was him. And he also drew a picture of the size of the portion of liver that he received in this letter. So when he says right about this size, he drew like a circle. So you're supposed to say that's about all the liver that you got. And so obviously you can see those in the letters on the Lowell Historical Museum website. And believe it or not the first drawing of meat in this episode. We get more.
I wonder if
So-
he used grape jam with it.
A little spoiler alert. We'll see. But I thought that was funny. It's just like a brown circle. But anyway, so lots of fun stuff in that
He
letter.
ate liver and onions. I remember growing up.
Oh,
He
yeah.
ate liver and onions.
Oh,
Oof,
gosh,
oof, oof,
well,
not me.
maybe he wanted a bigger portion this time. But
Yeah.
I am curious about this trip to Farnborough. I think it's Farn.
Oh, is
Farn.
it Farn?
Farn with an
Farnborough,
N. That's my typo there. Because he talks about how he's like, there's some code words in there, I think, for some reason. I think. But Dale, can you tell us anything about Farnborough?
Farnborough, England, is special for its long-standing aviation history, hosting the world-famous Farnborough International Air Show, and its role as a major center for aerospace and technology, including the Farnborough Aerodrome, which was the UK's first airfield. The Farnborough Aerodrome is renowned for its long-standing aviation links. Back at the start of the 20th century, His Majesty's Balloon Factory was set up there. It is home to the country's first powered flight, which saw Samuel Franklin Cody take off in his British Army Aeroplane number 1, covering 1,400 feet over Farnborough in 27 seconds and at an altitude of 30 to 40 feet. Now, this Samuel Franklin Cody was a character, so I have to include a little information about him. He is most famous for his work on the large kites known as Cody war kites. They were used by the British War before World War I as a smaller alternative to balloons for artillery spotting. He was also the first man to fly an aeroplane built in Britain on October 17, 1908. In August 1913, his Cathedral 6, which was a plane he built, broke up in the air and crashed, killing him.
Oh, no.
More than 50,000 people attended his funeral and burial in the military cemetery southeast of London. Known as the father of British aviation, Cody was awarded the Silver Medal by the Aeronautical Society for his services to aeronautics. His work also stimulated public interest in aviation and led to the formation of the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Navy Air Service. In his early days in America, he was a flamboyant Wild West showman and was often confused with Buffalo Bill Cody,
No kidding.
Oh.
whose surname he used when he was young. So, and there's a picture of him. He looks like Buffalo Bill. He's got the cowboy hat on and a handlebar mustache, and yeah, he's a character.
Oh, wild.
So
Okay.
the modern-day Farnborough derives from the Old English Fernburga, meaning fern-covered hill. It was first recorded in the Domesday Book of 1068, where it is listed as a small hamlet within the manor of Condall. Farnborough today is a friendly town surrounded by a peaceful countryside. The town is also home to Farnborough Abbey, a Benedictine monastery where Napoleon III and his wife are buried, as well as the Farnborough Air Sciences Trust, known as FAST, F-A-S-T Museum, which offers a fascinating collection of aircraft, equipment, machinery, photographs, and films from Farnborough's aviation history. It is said to be the birthplace of British aviation.
Wow.
Add
That's
it
why
to the
Bruce liked it
itinerary when we go. Add Farnborough. So there, yeah, okay, so that makes sense why he's going to the RAF station there. But yeah, who knows? Something happened there, but he had to censor it. So instead, he just drew a picture of his liver, like portions.
Geez, wouldn't we like to have known that story? Whatever that was that he was.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Okay.
Oh well. Now it's time to get into our segment where we talk about what was going on in the world and in Lowell in January 1944. So we're going to start with some mention of Lowell people from a letter that Bruce wrote on January 3rd, 1944, in his own words.
Monday, January 3rd, 1944. Dear Mother and Dad, this is one of those letters in which I haven't much to say but will write just for writing's sake. I've been through all your old letters last night, and when I looked at all the writing you had done, I realized how often you must think of me. When I get back, I bet there will be quite a bunch of mine around there, too. Remember how surprised I was with the number you had to show me in July? As I told you when I was home, I just didn't have room to keep all the letters you had written. But it's different over here. I save every one and quite often I'll reach into my drawers and reread one that is just picked from random. Incidentally, I received a letter from Mrs. Allen a few days ago. It was quite a letter, about 5 pages long, written on both sides. As you know, she never impressed me too favorably, but she did write a nice letter, and not the kind I thought she would at all. Contemplating a mother-in-law is certainly a new experience for me. Believe me, there's going to have to be a way that I can more or less still be with you, or this marriage business doesn't sound a bit good. Mama's boy? Okay, so I admit it, and Dad's boy too. Gosh, you think the Army would change me, wouldn't you? Nothing will ever change my desire to be near you. I don't know whether I told you that I'd received a letter from Curly Howard or not. In case I didn't, it was written from aboard ship somewhere, I believe. He said that perhaps he could meet me in London one of these days. I'd certainly get a kick out of seeing him. If I can only meet some of the old Lowellites, I'll give him a ride over this country, which is quite a thing to do these days. Being flight CO makes this possible. Well, for nothing to say, I've sure rambled on. Better go down to my room and put on a blouse for supper. I'll write tomorrow. God be with you. Your loving son, Bruce.
I'm certainly glad he saves those letters now.
Yeah.
And I love how he's like, I'm sure if I get home, I'll see some of my letters there. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
buddy, don't you know? For sure. A couple things in this letter. First of all, who is Curly Howard? You said do you like a friend of Bruce's? Do we know who?
I
he
didn't
is?
realize that Dad was friends with him. I knew that he knew him, but I didn't realize he was. This kind of suggests that he was a closer friend than I realized he was.
Oh, okay.
Back when we knew Curly Howard, he ran the Club Diner, which is Sabaro's there now. And
Yeah.
Sabaro's there
It's,
now,
yeah.
It's Sabor, yep.
or
There's Sabor.
Yeah, I was like
I'm
Sabaro's.
sorry.
Where's
I'm
there?
sorry.
No,
Sabaro's?
Sabor, yeah.
Sabor.
Mexicano.
Mexican place. Yeah.
Mexicano.
I mean, that's where we hung out and played pinball for a nickel a game and had his famous hamburgers, which
Oh, yeah.
are fantastic.
Spent a lot of time in
Oh,
Curly's
yeah.
Club. And
Well-
we just called it Curly's.
Yeah, we just
It was
called
the
it
Club
Curly's.
Diner, but
Yeah.
we just called it Curly's.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice.
He lived up the hill by us too.
Oh, yeah.
His
Yeah,
house was
yeah.
by us. So yeah.
All right. Well, he was on a ship somewhere.
Yeah, you know, he
in
did a
World War
lot
II.
of good things. He would show up at football games and you'd open up his trunk and there'd be like 4 boxes of donuts that he made a really great homemade donut, iced them, and and great burgers.
Yeah, but he used the same grease for all of
Oh,
it. Well, no, but
oh
the
no,
hamburgers
no,
are
no! For
fantastic.
What made it
years
great?
and
Oh,
years and
my
years and
gosh.
years, with a little cigar ash in it. Oh my God!
They were good, so good. They were so crusty on the Yeah, they were
crispy
excellent.
on the. Oh, nobody's really topped that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
We-
a ringing
yeah.
endorsement of Mr.
Yeah.
Curly Howard. I'll
we
tell you
spent
what.
we spent many hours in that
Oh, yeah.
place growing up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
And a veteran, also, because he's clearly out and about. It's also the first mention of Mrs. Allen, who, of course, as he says, is his future mother-in-law, Margaret Allen's mother, Dad and Lori's grandmother, my great-grandmother. He's a very interesting take on her, for sure, but he said he wasn't impressed with her at first. What do you remember about her or about their relationship?
I don't remember.
You probably don't remember her very
Well,
much. at all.
I remember sleeping with her. She would come and she'd sleep in my. But she didn't come very often to Michigan. We went down. I went down a couple times to see her
She lived
house
in Florida, right?
in
Yes,
Miami.
I visited her
yeah.
in Miami. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
And she did own a house on M21 in the East Belt Line for many years.
Yeah. And she
Oh.
loved key lime pie. That's what I
Okay.
remember about. Yeah. Yeah. That's
All
about
right.
it. Their relationship, I don't know. But didn't seem to be I mean, I don't remember it being any strained or anything. I think I would, the empathetic person I was, I think I would have picked up on it. But nope.
I didn't realize her first name was Marta.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I thought her first name was Ree
Grandma Marie.
because she was Grandma Ree. I
Yeah.
think I was like 24 when I figured that one out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. And maybe he felt like she didn't like him at first, but apparently she did write him a very nice letter
And that's good.
during this time. So his future mother-in-law. I just think that's so funny. First mention of her.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to some war news now. So we got the Lowell people, now the national news. We're going to read a short excerpt from the end of a letter to Lotta and Frank from January 9th in his own words.
Don't remember whether I told you about the way I get fresh eggs or not. Over here, all chickens belong to the government. Well, that is, you can't kill them and eat them without a government permit. Well, this is a wartime measure, and while I have a farmer from whom I buy eggs once a week, it's about 15 cents a piece, but they're worth it. I give the mess sergeant 1 egg per day to cook them for me, so that any morning I want fresh eggs, I have them. The powdered eggs aren't quite what you'd expect. Their taste and consistency is like cardboard. Well, war news was really heartening today. Boy, these Russians are going to finish this before the invasion if we don't hurry.
I don't know. I think I kind of expect powdered eggs to be bad.
Yeah.
Like that sounds
yeah.
gross. Dale, what can you tell us about these Russians? What are they doing? What is the Soviet Army doing in early 1944?
Well, in early 1944, the Red Army, following a period of successful offenses, was reorganized and preparing 166 divisions for a major summer offensive on the Belarusian front. On June 23rd, the Red Army launched Operation Bagration, a massive operation in Belarus which completely surprised the German Army Group Center in support of the Normandy invasion. This goal was to liberate Belarus, push into Poland and Lithuania, and cripple the German forces. The operation was a major success, resulting in the destruction of 28 of 34 divisions of the German 3rd Panzer, 4th and 9th Armies of the Army Corps Group Center. Soviet troops kept advancing up to 15 miles a day and had entered and liberated all of Belarusia before the end of July, which left the road open to Poland and Lithuania for further troop movement. Get this, the losses on both sides during Operation Bagration was significant. An estimated 350,000 to 670,000 Germans were killed, wounded, or captured, several thousand being even paraded in humiliation through the streets of Moscow.
Oh, jeez.
The Red Army lost more than 750,000 soldiers that died or were wounded, and as the campaign ran out of momentum, a final tragedy occurred, the Warsaw Uprising. Operation Bagration was part of Joseph Stalin's promise to Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt to launch an offensive in support of opening a Western Front in France. So that was the beginning of it. And then the Warsaw Operation. So
The beginning
once
of the
again,
end.
thousands and thousands of lives lost
Yeah.
because of war.
I don't know, amazing. Hundreds of thousands. That's insane. So they're on the move in early 1944. Well, so was the 8th Air Force. It's now time for our segment where we reveal information we know about Bruce's flight missions. For this information, we have to consult flight records and mission diaries from the historical website of the 306 Bomb Group and all of its squadrons. And on January 4th, Bruce flew another mission to Kiel, Germany. And this is from the combat diary.
Kiel. The Eager Beavers put up 10 aircraft piloted by Captain Joseph Belser and Lieutenants J. Bruce McMahon, W. Dale Reed, William Reeder, Carl N. Grending, Floud Brunn, Charles Berry, Walter Kilt, Robert Eccles, and Charles W. Smith for this mission. They flew in the composite group, in which the 92nd Group supplied 6 aircraft for the High Squadron. Captain Belser was the flight commander in the lead squadron. Other 386th ships filled in the lead and low squadrons, with 1 PFF accompanying the lead. The composite acted as a lead group for the 40th. Directly over the target was clear, but did not permit visual bombing on approaching. No attacks were made by enemy aircraft, and flak was moderate, barrage, and tracking, both very inaccurate. The mission was uneventful. All returned safely.
I love an uneventful mission
Yeah.
for once. So Kiel was bombed a lot during the war, as I found out, because it was the home of a German naval base. So from the 306 website, it looks like Bruce went on more than one mission to Kiel, actually more than 2. One from our last episode and then this one. The 306 website also said that Bruce received another air medal from December 13th, 1943, which happened to be his last mission to Kiel. So I don't know if that's the mission he earned it on or what, but he hasn't said that yet. So he hasn't said it in any letters yet. So I don't know. I don't know any other specifics on it. And then this one, he said he was in the, like, they talk about how Bruce was in the composite group. I have no idea what that is. From what I could tell, it's just like the side, like off to the side, or an extra group. So I don't know what that is.
Made up of different groups? A composite?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just guessing.
Maybe. So,
Those were the combat mission. Dale and I were talking. I just, that's the first time I've looked at them now, and they show everything. They show the formations. They show.
I know,
I
right?
didn't know that, so maybe
Yeah.
that's something that.
yeah, we have a
can
lot
consult.
of the pictures on Instagram and on our YouTube videos that Dale puts together. In the single PDFs of the letters, we have some mission reports and diaries or pieces of them. But yeah, it's an incredible amount of detail. A lot of it I don't understand.
Right.
Half of it. So I leave some of those details out because I'm like, I don't even know what this means. But it's pretty neat to see. You can see every crew he flies with on every mission, too. It lists all their names
Yeah.
and what they did. So, yeah,
Composite group.
pretty
Okay.
interesting. So Bruce writes a few things about home around this time. So we're going to read 2 letters from early January that mention his family in various ways. And the first one is from January 10th, 1944, in his own words.
January 10th, 1944. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm so glad you understand about Western State. I didn't think you would, but after all, it is a good school. I wasn't sure you would notice the difference from Central and Western, but knowing both of them, you must agree with me. Western State could almost be called my watchword. Today, I've thought all about Western. What a poignant memories they were. I hope when this is over to be able to finish my degree. I wrote a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Donahue last week. Byrne said he was always suggesting people to me, but I've always liked Helen's folks very much, and I'm so sorry that Mr. D is having so much trouble. I'm glad Marg drops a line to you occasionally. As I've said many times before, she really is a nice person, and I want you to see those things in her that I see. I was sorry that I couldn't send her any Christmas presents, but I just didn't have a chance to. I know she understands. The wire I sent will have to do until I can really get you folks something, like a personal appearance. That's probably the only gift you would really appreciate, right? Well, better finish now. God bless you, Mom and Dad. Your loving son, Jay Bruce. We just
I am
don't.
so confused.
Yeah.
We've talked about this many times, but I am still flummoxed that Grandpa Bruce went to Western. I've literally never heard this before in my life.
just
I
can't
know he
figure out
also
the
went
timing.
to Central. He went.
Yeah.
He was a Chippewa. I know this, but this letter implies he liked Western better, and this is not sitting with me.
And he was a Spartan, right?
And he was
a
a Spartan. So he went to Michigan State. We did not know there's a third college in here.
Right.
I have no
Interesting.
idea.
Never
And-
knew that.
And yeah, Western State. I also didn't know it was called that. So Dale, you found a bunch of things about
Yeah,
Western.
I found some of the, in 1903 to 1926, Western was called the Western State Normal School.
The Teachers College.
And from
Yeah.
1927 to 1940, it was called Western State Teachers College. And then from 1955 to 1957, it was called Western Michigan College of Education, Western Michigan College.
Yeah. So, I mean, Grandpa's wanted to be a teacher, right? Is what you were saying? Perhaps? Maybe? I mean, he went to two teaching schools back to back.
Yeah. I don't know.
He might have gone for the pheasant hunting at Central. I think
Well,
because he wanted to
football.
play. He wanted to play.
Football
He
might
wanted
have
to
been the
play.
Yeah.
reason for Central, but maybe that's what. Maybe Central was to play football
He
more
never
than
mentioned-
education.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Of all these things, I'm most upset about this. I'm giving Western grads.
Well,
a
when I
hard
first
time.
read through the letters, that was the thing that threw me the most. This mention of Western. He didn't
Yeah.
even talk about Western. So
But here he's got all these poignant memories. I don't know. It was crazy. Well, we're going to finish today with a cute letter that he wrote on January 11th in his own words.
January 11th, 1944. Dear Mother and Dad, I received your December 24th letter, Mother, yesterday, and your December 28th letter today, Dad. The Christmas menu that you sent with all the signatures was swell. Incidentally, that ham and eggs, homemade bread, fried cakes, plus a fruit cocktail sounded extra super. I can just see each member as they sign the page. Even to Gail's penmanship in the corner. I'll bet Butch really would have marked plenty if you had given him the chance. Not to be too inquisitive, but was that ham about this thick? I also received letters from Betty and Joe and says, someday, Dad, I'm going to take you for a ride and explain how each control works and what each dial, gauge, and instrument means. I'm so glad you received the wire, and I'll try to send you more from now on. I cut out a clipping from my Stars and Stripes, which gives you an inkling of our weather hereabouts. Nothing much more tonight. Wings just came in from her short nightly prowl and is now curled up on the bed. What's extra special about her is she does her own foraging for food, so I don't feed her very often. Good night, dear Mom and Dad. Your loving son, Jay Bruce.
Aw, wings. So it's so cute. So apparently they all had Christmas dinner without him, of course, because he's in overseas, and they all signed the menu, like what they had to eat. Mm-hmm. Right? That's adorable. That's really, really cute. And so we got to recap some of these people for the listeners. So Gail is Roger's daughter and Bruce's niece. I'm also asking you for confirmation here. But
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
So
that's right.
Okay, good. Betty and Joe are Marion's daughters, also Bruce's nieces, right? And then Sis is, of course, Marion. But this might be one of the first mentions of Butch. So who is this? You want to tell the listeners who this is?
Oh, that's Roger's son.
Okay, so the new nephew, FJ.
Youngest
Frank.
son.
Youngest, yes.
There's
Gail's
Raj
youngest.
Jr.
Yep.
Yep.
Gail's brother.
and
youngest
Gail,
brother.
and then Frank Joseph. Is that what?
I think so,
Okay. Good. FJ, right? But we always knew him as I always knew him as Butch.
Yeah.
He's been Butch
Yeah,
as
I
long
always
as I've
thought he
known
was
him.
Butch too.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, he's clearly
I don't
been...
call him Butch anymore. He's Frank now. For
Oh,
some
no, he's
reason.
gone back?
Well,
He's
he's
gone
been
back?
Frank for a long time, but my brother Mike calls him Frank, so I guess I started calling him Frank. But nobody else was calling him Butch, so.
Oh, well, interesting.
But I didn't realize it went all the way back to when he was just a little toddler.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how he got that.
We always have to kind of remind people, so we have talked about Frank on here because he was born in 1943, we discovered. And so we read the letters about a year ago from this when he was first born.
Yeah.
And earlier in this episode, he calls him FJ, like P.S., say hi to
Yeah,
Raj,
FJ.
Gail, and FJ. But yeah, this is the first time he's called him Butch in this letter. So, and he might probably barely met him, I would think, but at this point, 'cause he's been overseas. But
Yeah, somebody must have called him Butch before that.
somebody must
obviously,
have
right?
called him Butch. I guess so.
We got another confirmation of Byrne being Barney. in
Yep,
this
we have
letter, I
that too.
noticed.
So yeah, no, these names.
We know that one for sure.
So not only do we have to remember all the McMahon names, we have to remember all their nicknames, which gets
Yeah.
a little tough, I'm sure. And again, I should mention, when he says not to be too inquisitive, but was that ham about this thick, he drew it.
He did it.
He drew it on the page on the letter, which you can see. So the second
Another
drawing of meat
Another-
in this episode. So you gotta
great.
love that. That was a cute letter. And that's all for today. So thank you for listening to Letters Home. We hope you continue to listen as we go through Bruce's story. You can listen to Letters Home on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Lowell Historical Museum website and YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Thursday. The Lowell Historical Museum has digitized versions of Bruce's letters, so you can read them all in full, along with his meat drawings and the primary sources for most of the people, places, and events we've talked about here today, plus more. You can also follow the Lowell Historical Museum on Facebook and the Letters Home podcast on Instagram at Letters Home Lowell. Thank you to Roger McNaughton for our podcast music and to Lowell Radio for letting us record in their studio at Lowell High School every week. Stream it at lowellradio.org. See you next time.